introduce today's speakers and experts in AI and enterprise technology. First and foremost, Tim Kulp from Mind Over Machines. Tim, you want to go do a quick little introduction?
Sure. So, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Tim Kulp with Mind Over Machines. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at Mind Over Machines. I'm focused right now on AI's big focus for the past few years for us and helping companies understand what is it, how do you use it, what should you be concerned about, what kind of questions should you be asking to prepare for your AI journey.
We're so happy to have you here today, Tim. I'm Beth White, and Tim is our expert today. I'm the founder and CEO of MeBeBot. We are also an AI solution. We'll go into a little bit of detail about how MeBeBot works and what we do. But essentially, our goal is to provide a solution for the enterprise to help support the employee experience. And we've been working within AI, conversational AI specifically, so that's why we'll bring that level of expertise to the conversation today.
Awesome. So love to kind of get a pulse check from everyone online. Maybe you can just tap your answers into the chat to really, when you think about AI, what words come to mind? So if we can just start to see some flow in the chat about what is AI?
What does AI mean? Yeah, we used to start a lot of these educational presentations talking about movies, because a lot of us think of AI when we think of different films that we've seen, from 2001 Space Odyssey to Her, Minority Report, you name it. So, but I think with a lot of the recent press and big announcements in the AI space lately, there's a lot of different things people are thinking about, which is great.
I always say Terminator future or Wall-E future. Which one?
Well, someone did mention Terminator there.
I see that.
Yes, that's right.
Workflow automation, augmented workforce, data-driven decision making.
At Westworld. There you go.
Westworld, there you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of different films, and they really can date you as to what generation you grew up in too.
Yeah.
I've realized that firsthand in some of these conversations. So
for sure. I'm curious to know what ChatGPT says about what AI means. So I think Beth had done a little ChatGPT research leading into this conversation, and so certainly let's see what ChatGPT references when they say here about conversational and generative AI. So a lot of the same things that have been talked about by today's audience. So automation, chatbots, enterprise businesses, so data analysis.
That's right. This word cloud was generated by ChatGPT. So it's great. It's one of the examples of generative AI that we'll be talking about today, but there's a lot of different hot topics here, or hot buzzwords that are popping out, and real technologies. So I'll pass it on over to Tim.
Yeah, so when we think about the evolution and history of AI, it really is not just like, oh, ChatGPT, that's the start of everything. In fact, AI is long and dated. And so, one of the people that I really like to highlight in the journey of AI is Ada Lovelace, who she was a mathematician and engineer in the 1830s, who is the first person that's really starting to talk about, the thinking machines, and her and Charles Babbage and what they're doing with their research. There's a wonderful book about her called Dreaming in Code, really fascinating human being who's done a lot, but she really was one of the first people, if not the first person, talking about this idea of machines thinking for themselves. And then as we go forward, in the 60s and the 50s and the 40s, we were working with artificial intelligence. We hit this AI winter for the period in the 70s, 80s, where not much was happening there. And then all of a sudden things start picking up faster. And so, you can see different dates here where we're, talking about like playing chess and, working with Deep Blue and, playing chess and Watson winning on Jeopardy and all this good stuff. The key thing here to really take away is this has been a long journey to get to where we are today. And the key things to take away is, but why now? Well, why now is we have the network connectivity to allow these massive amounts of data to be moving around, and we have the volume of data. So cloud computing was a huge enabler in making AI affordable and accessible for everyone. So I will call out two awesome dates on here. Is 1989, that's when Mind Over Machines got started. So we've been helping customers implement solutions from there. And 2019, when MeBeBot launched, and I remember having conversations with Beth, not long after that around what they were doing. Very fascinating stuff. So super excited to talk more with you guys about this today. And on that, the Mind Over Machines, who is Mind Over Machines? So Mind Over Machines, we're a technology consulting firm. We've been around, since 1989, as we just saw. And really what we're doing is we're helping clients in their digital transformation. So we help people understand, where does the CRM fit? Where does business intelligence fit? How does automation fit? So AI is really a natural extension of this to say, how can AI accelerate these things while keeping the human relevant, empowered, and really the key value asset of the business? AI is not the key value asset. The human is the key value asset. So we really help our partners, realize the ROI of their projects and reduce risk, all through empowering humans through technology. Next slide. And we do all kinds of stuff for this. So it's not just working in AI. We have been working for many years around enterprise systems and business analytics. And I see a couple people that have been part of Mind Over Machines' journey here online, working with automation and building out that data. Because if you don't have that strong data, you're not going to have strong AI capabilities. And Vera the cat wants to participate. So, we're really focused on digital transformation for companies end to end. Next, Beth.
Great. And just a little bit about MeBeBot, and I promise you this is not any kind of commercial. We're going to get into the hot topic here, but what Tim and I are bringing forward are two different kinds of thought processes. Tim's involved in working with companies on their whole digital transformation journey, whereas MeBeBot is a SaaS-based solution. We have a particular solution that we bring to market. Again, 100% cloud hosted. It contains an AI chatbot with a customer-facing portal. And the whole goal is to really focus on the employee experience with inside companies. We're excited that we get to work with a number of amazing companies. As you can see some of the logos here, our solution's been rolled out to over 50 countries. We're really highly fixated and focused on supporting the employee needs. So everything from the types of questions they ask with inside the organization, pulse surveys and push messaging to ensure communications and feedback. And then, of course, all the great data that you can generate with AI. That's really been a fascinating part of this journey and what AI surfaces for organizations. So we're happy and proud of our customer base, and frankly love that they've been satisfied with the results that they gain. And we've had 100% renewals of our customers. So that's been pretty fabulous. But let's go into the topic at hand, which is, why we're here today, talking about the difference between generative AI and conversational AI. And just kind of as a side note, as Tim discussed in the overall timeline, AI, there's a lot of different types of AI out there. There's everything from the voice AI to, like you see chatbots popping up on consumer-facing websites. And then, of course, the buzz going on now with ChatGPT and Bard, which are part of what they call generative AI. And so really the key takeaway with generative AI is it's really using large language models. And Tim will describe that in a little bit more detail here, to essentially take data and then use it to generate content. And content can be everything from, blog articles, job descriptions in the HR world. It can be everything from, just information and images and even audio. The big difference then is, and I'm going to do a shout out to my friends that are part of the Conversational Collective out there. There's been a group of us that have been involved in conversational AI really globally for years. And the thinking with the global community in conversational AI is it's all about the human interaction. So there's a lot of design thinking involved in conversational AI, taking an employee or a person through an experience where you're using AI to help interact with the individual and really bring them into a process perhaps to support them. And it's leveraging natural language processing and machine learning, very similar to generative AI, but in a different way, more in this kind of conversational way. You can think of the old kind of dialogue or workflow thought process, but again, leveraging AI along each step of the way to produce the right decisions, and the information back to the human being that's interacting with the technology. And the net of it all is that both conversational AI and generative AI are great for enterprise businesses. However, it's very similar to a lot of technology and tools you may use inside your companies. You want to get the right tool for the job, and you really want to make sure you understand, like, what is your desired outcome, how are you going to kind of measure success, and what kinds of solutions will really get you there and get you there in a place where it's easy to manage and maintain a solution over time. So, there's a lot of need for digital transformation within inside organizations. And again, there's different types of tools and solutions. And the key is to really think through what your outcome should be and looking for the right types of solution that solves the business problem you have. And so I'll go ahead and turn it over to Tim.
All right. So I know everybody came here to learn how large language models really work and the statistical mathematics to make them work, but we're not going to go into all that. We're going to go for a super slimmed down version of this, just for you to get the base understanding of how to think about how these systems work. So to start with, we have this gray bars here. So imagine this is just text that we've typed in. And then Beth, if we go to the next one here, the barn is, and if I start that statement, it could be red is the answer you think of. It could be, the next open or on or going into full. Now, the key thing here is when the large language model is figuring out what to say next, it's looking at a statistical probability of the most likely next word based on the content you've already provided, and as well as the context. So next there, Beth, there he goes, and looking at the context of what you're talking about. Now you'll notice in the gray bars, there's a red area, and that's to tell you that it doesn't look at everything ever that you have written. It has a certain limit of text that it's working in. So basically it's looking at the context, it's looking at the known text it's reading, and it could be 3,000, 10,000, whatever number of characters or words that the system is generated to work with. And then based on all of these things put together, it said, okay, what's the most likely next word to use? And in this case, final transition, it's going to be empty, because in the 1980s, in the farming crisis, the barns were empty because there was not a lot of crops being generated. So the statistical analysis is getting to, here is the most likely next word. Now, granted, it's not copying and pasting this information from, Encyclopedia Britannica. It's talking about age. It's not going in and looking it up in the card catalog. It is looking at a statistical analysis of the most likely next word, which means it's not always right. All right. And as you start thinking about large language models being trained on the content generated by large language models, now you start an AI echo chamber where what it thinks is true is just reinforced because it keeps statistically saying the same thing. So that's a lot different than what Beth is about to talk about in conversational AI.
Right. Thanks, Tim. And I know this is that was a great description, by the way. And Tim can put a little plug out there for a book he's actually written using a large language model as well. So when we talk about, what MeBeBot does with inside organizations, and then the concept of a domain-specific language model we use to drive our conversational AI. What the difference is when you think about the content and the questions employees ask inside a workplace, it's very specific to business. And when you think about the ways that ChatGPT and generative AI has been trained, it's being trained on all the publicly available information out there. Well, guess what? Your employee handbook is likely not published out there. Neither is your benefits summary guides or other information that's really behind your firewall. And so what MeBeBot did differently is we said there's a set of questions that employees ask from company A to B to C to D. I have lived it. I spent years in HR running global call center support for employees. I know these types of questions are the same often, but what makes it unique is the answers that are delivered. And so what we did is we provide inside our solution a curated library of content that's actually been pre-trained and tested to what they call intents or question answer type pairs, so that when an employee asks a question in any different type of way, they're going to get the correct answer that's specific to your business, leveraging content that lives within inside the MeBeBot customer portal for your company. And so why that's different is, again, we apply a crowdsourced approach to training the AI data model just within our customer base. So all of our customers, employees asking questions are going to get delivered answers unique to their business. But again, an employee in India who may be asking for a pay slip and an employee in the US asking for a paycheck stub, again, it's the same type of answer being delivered. Knowing the domain is really important, because if you understand the types of ways that employees are going to ask types of questions specific around benefits, IT, payroll, you name it, having the human supervised learning that we provide gives another whole set of training to the data. So it's applying the human supervised learning to the specific domain data model so that accurate answers are produced, because we know that the way that AI is going to gain adoption within organizations, within a consumer base, is it has to be accurate. It has to be delivering results that are meaningful. And so to do this in this model is allowing the accuracy of answers to employees, essentially when a solution is launched to the employee base. I know that was a lot to kind of take in, but hopefully you guys can digest it. And by the way, if you do have questions, put them into the chat and we will address them at the end.
Yeah. And so AI use cases for enterprise. And one thing I, just to call back to, I can't emphasize enough, AI is about statistical probability. It is not about the right answer. And so when you're working with HR data, you want the right answer, not the statistically likely answer. So working, that's one of the really big values, with it, as I was talking with Beth about today's presentation, getting the right answer is excellent. So in HR, so AI use cases for enterprise businesses, for digital transformation, for data-driven decisions. One of the things that you want to be thinking about is, what is the problem you're trying to solve? A lot of times people are like, oh, AI, it's cool. Let's do AI. It's like, well, why? What's this problem you're trying to solve? And so we've seen customers who are using AI to process and read like forms for invoices to be able to speed up their speed to revenue. We've seen using computer vision for understanding documents of like, what is this document talking about? And then text analytics of, is it a positive or negative sentiment in this document? And then routing it accordingly so that you can get the right customer service agent servicing that customer based on where they are in their request and their emotional state through that communication. Thinking about data-driven decisions, again, remember, I keep saying statistical probability, you can use a lot of very rich statistical analysis. And that's what a lot of machine learning comes down to, is neural networks and statistical analysis. And so you can use these things to say, what is the best decision from here, according to the machine? Now, we see the most value is that the human says, okay, that's an input. That the human's not the machine, right? The human doesn't say, oh, 68% probability, let's go with that, just because that's what the machine said and we don't put any human thought into it. So really thinking about, how does the machine empower the human, putting the human thought to it and going forward from there. And then finally, automation. A lot of business processes have automation capability. Onboarding is a great example. support tickets, support requests. Most of the time, these are very standardized activities and they are very common. You have a lot of the same things being asked. Automation is great. AI can enable that because it's standardized, it's predictable. You can go forward from there. The key that you want to avoid is don't try to build your own thing from scratch right off the bat, that don't sink a ton of money, and have a clear ROI as you're going forward, as well as your clear why are you using AI. So with that said, I'll hand it back to Beth as we're going forward here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tim. And so again, some of the differences again with conversational AI versus generative AI is it's really about engaging with individuals. So it's engaging, enabling, enriching, empowering. You can see these big buzzwords. And that is the main basis of, why to leverage the conversational AI is when you're trying to create an experience like many companies who are focused on employee experience, it's very similar to focusing on your customer experience. You want the people inside your organization to be empowered to get information when they need it, whenever on their time zone, for example. So having 24/7 support's really awesome for employees, especially as companies have globalized. Enabling employees to be as productive as they can be within their jobs, helps them, frankly, feel a little bit more fully actualized and allow them for richer career paths inside organizations. We all know that communications are so key within organizations. And so by being able to leverage the same technology, not only to answer questions, but to push out communications and to gather feedback, you're enriching their experience, you're keeping them in the know of what's happening at your business. And additionally, you're gathering the important feedback you may need to make quicker business decisions. So a lot of it's about all the data that you can generate again from the AI, producing an experience that's rich for whatever you choose to leverage it, whether it be for your internal employees or for your external customers. Having an experience where there's interactivity, it really does bring a heightened sense of fulfillment for both the employee or the customer. And so when we talk a little bit more about MeBeBot and what we do for the enterprise, one great visual is we've moved into this whole world of global hybrid work, and that the front door to an organization has been essentially moved. We're all moving to more of a digital world. And so, but yet you still want to welcome, people inside your organization. So how do you provide a new front door that guides an employee, through an experience within their company to allow them to be efficient and productive and to free up the valuable time from the people inside the business? And so having a solution that's very easy to launch. Again, there's a huge benefit with the build versus buy. In our case, the buy decision with MeBeBot is that, we take the guesswork out of what are people going to ask about? What kinds of questions do employees have? We have that in the curated library content in our system so that we can allow our customers to simply become editors of content and launch a solution quickly. And time to value is super important inside organizations. Often there are not internal resources that can be wrapped up in a 1 to 2 year implementation project. Having something that's a no-code/low-code solution that can be launched really quickly allows for that immediate gratification. And frankly, like Tim mentioned, seeing what ROI you can gain from a solution, which is really impressive. And again, having a solution that's sustainable over time gives you that foundation that you can build upon as well. And so let me take you through just a brief demo of MeBeBot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 2 different interactions. So first of all, MeBeBot is an AI chatbot that can be installed inside Slack, Teams, or we even have a web chat as well. And so this is what we call our employees' front door. And when we talk about the world of conversational AI, this is where we're going. It's a sense of you're interacting with the employee. The first thing we do in our interaction is we work with companies that have people in many countries. So we can populate MeBeBot to surface the countries that an employee lives in. They can make that selection. And MeBeBot has gone into another level of really supporting different roles within inside an organization. We launched a product called Manager Toolbot that allows us to surface very specific answers to manager-related questions because they're unique. They're different than the kinds of questions that employees ask. But for the sake of this demo, I'm going to choose myself as a team member, and I'm going to ask one of those very basic questions like, when do we get paid, for example? So that's one of the basics of an employee onboarding within an organization. They need to know the pay days, and they may not have remembered what they learned in new hire orientation. You may have different payroll schedules for different countries. And so MeBeBot can identify an employee and surface the answer to their question based on where they live. And again, this answer is generated using the knowledge base within inside MeBeBot's customer portal. So we can see that there is detailed information that we're paid semi-monthly, direct deposit dates may vary, payroll dates, and you can actually link to documents that are potentially housed within knowledge bases, company intranets, etc., that enrich the answer to the question. Again, the employee can then take it to a different level. They can look at direct deposit information if they want to set up direct deposit. So we're continuing to help them get to the root needs of their question, or get their questions solved quickly and thoroughly. I can even ask questions about things like, what is our remote work policy? So this is an example of a question over the last few years that's been dynamically changing within organizations. We give the power to the business users to edit and update these answers in real time. So if you are moving from remote work to more hybrid work, you now have a new policy that you've created or updated an existing policy. You can put that information in. You can enhance the answer with, perhaps you have a new tool that you're using to schedule desks. These are all things that can be incorporated into the answer for MeBeBot very simply in our customer-facing portal. And of course, we know that at times employees may not get the answer that they're looking for. There is a feedback loop. So they have the ability to potentially escalate and create a ticket in a ticketing system. If you simply have general inboxes, we can escalate to inboxes. So there's a variety of ways that employees can get ongoing support and even push over to live chat as well. Microsoft Teams users may like to see this interface with inside Microsoft Teams. And again, you can see it's just slightly different. It's just the user experience within the two different products. But I can again ask another question, like an IT question this time. How do I use the VPN? And so the goal is that you want to give the employees one singular interface to ask any type of question, whether it's HR, payroll, IT related. They can get surfaced an answer that offers up, using the AI, suggested other related topics so they can drill down to more information. Again, you can have how-to articles linked with inside here. And so it really does surface a lot of information for the employee. Goal is to solve 80% or more of the types of tier 1 level and tier 2 level support questions with inside MeBeBot. And the same interface is also used to push out communications and send pulse surveys. So employees can actually receive a message via MeBeBot, which is pinned here on a side toolbar within Teams. And again, we're certified apps for both Microsoft Teams and Slack. So you can get a feel for that. And then lastly, what makes all the magic happen, I call it kind of the secret sauce behind the scenes, is the MeBeBot customer portal. And so our business user, which with inside MeBeBot, have access to this portal so that they can deliver and edit the answers to the questions when they want at any time without being technical experts. Business users from payroll departments and HR departments and facilities and IT help desk, they control the questions or the answers to the questions that their employees ask from this interface. Data is so valuable. Our customers can see in real time from last month how many answers MeBeBot served. We can serve them up in multiple channels, we call it, either Slack, Teams, or web chat at the same time. You can look at given days of the week. You can even look at the data based on what country someone lives in. And then, of course, what's really fun is when people understand what kinds of questions people are asking about in more detail. So this is great. In one singular view, you can learn a lot more about your people and their needs. You can do some other fun things here too, which is we have a concept of placeholders, which means MeBeBot has content for all different countries. If I'm a US user of MeBeBot, my first task in setting up MeBeBot is simply fill out your placeholder values. So these are things that make your business unique, and everything from 401k, benefits topics, diversity, equity, inclusion, question answers. I mean, we cover the gamut across the business in this content library, but we make it easy for companies to get started because you fill out your placeholder values. And then inside our question answer knowledge base, so I'm focused on the US content, I can see I have questions answers about 401k, for example. If I come into this question and answer, I can actually see how, if I'm the benefits guru at a company, I can come in and actually see my placeholder of Fidelity's or 401k flows into the answer. I can see other information that I can add, and I can edit any answer at any time and put a new answer in, hit save, change, and that change is now real time reflected in when an employee asks a question. So I'm not going to go into a lot of time because we want to leave some room for questions and answers, but from the same dashboard, you can also send out push messaging. So internal comms teams love this tool. It's a new channel to get quick messages out to employees that are very pertinent to them. They can be targeted reading Active Directory distribution lists, Slack channels, or uploading CSV files so that it's not just a massive blast to your population. And then of course, pulse surveys allow you to do the same type of thing where you can send a quick survey question and then get feedback right within this tool. And the great thing is employees love this. They interact with it. We get 60 to 70% of employees responding to our customers' pulse surveys within the first 4 hours. So it's just an awesome way to keep your finger on the pulse of your people. And I know there may be some questions coming in, but we're going to get to that in just 1 minute here. So in talking about, MeBeBot and how we work with conversational AI and the benefits and value it provides to organizations. So we're all about having your people do the hard work. One of our customers always likes to describe it that way. I want my people to be working on strategic tasks for the business. So we help reduce the manual questions that employees are asking or getting answers from ticketing systems, from Slack messaging your HR business partner or your payroll person sending an email by at least 70%. And it's also generating, like you saw, the great real-time analytics and insights to help you learn more about your people. Having the ability to push out communications. Things were changing in real time, literally over the last 4 years with the pandemic, and making sure employees understand gives them greater sense of confidence, security, and consistency in information. And then, of course, having the ability to gather some feedback from employees allows you to truly keep your finger on the pulse of your people, even though we are all working with a lot of distributed and global teams. So, all right, here's where we get to the fun part where you all get to ask questions. I mean, if you have already been putting them into the chat, that's fabulous. We had some sent into us in advance, and I know Tim was going to kick us off by addressing a couple questions that came in, and I'll fill in as well. But I'll let you take it over here, Tim.
Sounds great. All right. So the first question, that we got, was how to use AI to improve results. And, that is an interesting question, especially when you say what result, like what's the result you're trying to improve, and so it is not uncommon that I encounter organizations that are like, we want to do AI. And that's as far as they've gotten. Like they want to do AI. And so when you're thinking like that, just checkbox. Okay, well, let's just implement this tool and you're done. Like, any tool, but there's no results. There's no impact. You're not processing that. So At Mind Over Machines, we really focus on what we call workforce ascension and enhancement, and our layer 8 methodology, which dives into what's the problem we're solving, who has that problem, and how do we measure it. And that way, when we select the right solution, we can show like it actually impacted to create a benefit. And so a great example of this was we were working with an organization who wanted to automate a process. The process was automated, and the team members are like, well, but it takes just as long for a human to do it. So what's the point? And it's like, well, the point is the metric was to reduce the human involvement in the automation. We have reduced it to 0. It doesn't matter if the automation takes as long as the human, because the human isn't doing it anymore. You know, the human can be focused on other more important things. So that's a good example of like the results are, you need to think about them, quantify them the best you can, and focus on how you're going to deliver that. You know, but if you don't have impact and a why in mind, step back from your AI implementation, you know, and think about what are you trying to achieve and why.
Yeah, that's great. That's great, Tim. Thanks. Did you want to take on number 2 as well?
Sure. So data privacy, this, I literally got off a call about this just a few minutes ago. So when you're thinking about data privacy, especially in large language models, you know, the whole point of it being called a large language model is because it is large. And so, you know, if you're looking to implement this in your own organization, it's going to depend how much data you have. And so when we think about like GPT-4, I believe it's in the trillions of data points that we're working in. Most organizations do not have trillions of data points on a single piece of content, you know, and a single type of data element. So you're working with very large data. So when you're putting into anything into ChatGPT, anything into the GPT systems, anything into these large language models, it's going into the training set for that organization, for that company, not your company. It's going into the general pool for the large language model. Yeah. So be mindful of what you're putting into there, because if you're like, okay, here are my financial results for the quarter that we don't want to share because we're a public company, but hey, ChatGPT, can you rewrite this for me to be like really engaging? Don't do that. Like, that is not good, because now you're sharing that data with these other organizations. So as companies are racing to embed these large language models in everything they do, keep in mind that data is going into the training set. Now, does that mean somebody can say, what were the financial results for the company X? No. But what they can be looking at is the statistical probability of what you entered is now in the pool. It can come out. And so you just want to be mindful of what you're putting into these systems, because they are general systems.
Yep, and that's a great point, Tim. And I think that's, again, the reason why MeBeBot exists is because we're dealing with customers that are working with content that's behind the company firewall, right? And having a very confined language model to the types of customers we serve, you know, contained means that your information with your company is your information. And so it really does matter. It, you know, especially in the world of HR policies, you want to be consistent and concise in the information that's being shared, and really making sure you're protecting your employees' privacy as well. Yeah. So, and then the last question on how can a SaaS provider leverage conversational AI to interact within their systems? So, you know, there's a lot of ways that companies are, you know, frankly, the inspiration for MeBeBot was, frankly, my own interaction with a lot of chatbots that are on, you know, customer-facing sites for everything from the telephone companies, your cell phone company, to the banks that you use or the insurance companies you work with. And so helping get that customer service is a great example, both internally and externally, letting it, you know, helping even the internal people within your team that are servicing your customers get different types of support. And then there's even ways that you can use conversational AI to troubleshoot your own technology. So I think there's a variety of different use cases. And the main kind of goal that I'd love you all to leave with is the right tool for the job, and just make sure that you're continually focused on not a one size fits all, but that there are things that will perform better for your particular use case.
Yeah, I can't agree more on that. Like, this goes for all technology items. Like, don't use a hammer when you should be using a screwdriver. Even if all you have is a hammer, like,
Right.
through the right tool for the right problem.
That's right. So thanks, Tim, for answering those questions. And Bennett, did you have any other questions that have come in? And we know that there may be more than we can handle in this time. We'll send out a follow-up after this.
Absolutely. So definitely wanted to take on one of the early questions asked by Judy. So her question, I think this one is definitely geared towards Beth. How do you ensure that when one company's employee questions and answers train a model, information confidential to that company isn't released to another company?
That's a great question, Judy. And so this is one of these things that we discussed, whether this is too technical or not, but MeBeBot has a multi-tenant architecture. So every customer has their own instance of MeBeBot's customer portal. So your information is contained in your solution, in your, siloed database, so that we tie to your Slack workspace or to your teams. We're authenticating your employees through the credentialing of their employee address, so that they're hitting your customer portal to deliver just your employee answers. So again, we have thousands of employees using our solution across the globe. Again, siloed databases on the back end is really the answer to that question. But it really does keep it contained in a secure manner that meets. We're SOC 2 Type 2 certified. That's important to note. We take security and privacy very seriously.
Awesome. Here's another interesting question posed by Kyle Lagunas. I know Tim has already had a little bit of a chat conversation with him, but thought I'd bring this to the entire audience here. So his commentary and his question is, one barrier he's experienced in deploying high impact AI and automation is that HR tech stacks are often a combination of relatively closed ecosystems. How does this compare to other dimensions of enterprise tech?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so with one of the things, when you have closed systems, there are technologies that can help you open them up. So robotic process automation is one of those technologies to be able to teach a computer teach a computer how to use a computer like a human. So type here, copy paste there, cut this content, put it over there, push this button. So you can leverage RPA technologies to access some of these systems. But the key thing that you want to think through is for any AI project, your data is critical. Like, if you need access to your data, you need to structure your data appropriately, and you need the governance mechanisms around your data. Like, I can't emphasize that enough. This is not, especially in the world of artificial intelligence, do not just have well, that's Bob, he does AI work. No, have a group who is overseeing what are the AI projects, how are they being used, who has approved these things. Because when you start working with machines that are making decisions about your business, you're accountable. Somebody is accountable for that decision, and it's not the machine. You can't fire the machine. You can turn it off, but who ultimately is accountable for these things? You want to be mindful of that. So, Beth, anything that you're
the only other thought I'd add, Kyle, to your question is, there's frankly a reason why MeBeBot launched our solution the way we did. Is we have a kind of a crawl, walk, run theory to getting companies comfortable with leveraging this technology. It is accessible, it is affordable, and it is secure. However, you saw how we had employee, identify their location by themselves, choose their role by themselves. So that means that we are reading who that the employee is authenticated user based on their email address, but we don't know anything more about them at this point in time when our customers are using MeBeBot It's until we have an integration to a back-end system of record, like what you're referring to, an API to Workday, for example, or other types of tools, that brings things to another level of the information that you can, frankly, benefit your employee with, but you also have to be responsible for. So there are ways to get started leveraging AI in a way that you can really grab onto and feel comfortable with in this day and age, and build upon it. So starting with everything right out of the box may not be the right way to go. Get the internal organization, like Tim said, more aligned to the things that you have to think through, so that when you're ready to do integrations to backend systems, which I definitely think is a good route to go, so that you can deliver more of a personalized experience, you know what you need to be mindful of, right?
Mhm.
So, Bennett, how are we doing on time?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just a few minutes over. I think, just a quick little kind of extension of Kyle's question. He was curious to understand. I think this speaks to some of this notion of collaboration, but who would you say is the best persona in IT or ops for HR to engage and build relationships with, so that there's this level of partnership required for that holistic AI strategy?
Mhm. So what I normally see, two aspects. One, you want somebody who's writing the checks, the person who is going to pay the bills, like that is somebody you want involved. The other people you want involved, I always use Greg in the coffee room as my example. And it's the idea of, like, you have this person who's in the coffee room, and every time you walk in, they're in the coffee room. This is back when we had coffee rooms. But, they're the one who talks to everybody. They're the one who is setting the emotional tone of, is this a good idea or not? Find who that person is, make them part of the project. Get that cheerleader person. So if that's HR, if that's ops, if that's IT, I include legal in this for AI projects. I definitely, when you're building use cases that using your data in ways that you have never communicated how you're going to be using your data, you want to make sure that the legal team is on board with what's going on there. To date, you can't sue an AI system, so somebody is going to be accountable. So that's, who's writing the checks and who's the person who can derail all of this and is the cheerleader for the organization. Get those people involved.
All right.
And just to add on it, also what we see with our customer base is we see the people that are overseeing the IT support desk very, very involved in employee experience these days, which I love seeing a true transition to, this is employee experience goes beyond HR, payroll, IT, legal, like Tim was mentioning. These are all people that are focused on it. So getting those internal stakeholders involved is great because they do care. They're supporting the internal customer as well, and they think of it in that light as well. And frankly, they love partnering on these types of solutions. We have a lot of IT customers inside the MeBeBot solution, as well as HR, payroll, et cetera.
So one thing in the comments I do want to point out, there was a great comment from Judy around, I imagine that's what Microsoft is doing with Copilot, referencing the thinking about keeping it to your domain, each tenant. These are things to watch because that isn't exactly how Microsoft has been talking about Copilot and their partnership with OpenAI. And so, one of the skills for the future is going to be fact checking and systems thinking. Like, how do all these things tie together? Microsoft Copilot is a very fascinating example of this, and I think will set some very interesting standards of how we go moving forward. Google is very much a closed system in that Google is looking to work with Google systems. So if you're using Google Suite, whatever they're calling it nowadays, you're in the Google environment. Microsoft has been very clear of their partner is OpenAI, and that's who they're going to be working with. So does your data go to OpenAI? And these are questions that will be answered in the next few weeks, probably, as fast as things are moving. So, but definitely keep an eye on that and keep tuned in as to what's going on there.
Awesome.